Hey, how you guys all doing today? Welcome back to the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Manny Mara Diege. Already kick-starting Week 12, and it was a crazy game that we had on last night. To kick things off, we had another AFC North game, and typically how those go, not what we saw last night. I mean, the physicality and everything was there, but the weather and everything in the game between the Browns and the Steelers was nuts. The result was unexpected, based on our prediction, but we're going to go through all of that and talk through it. Also, talking about AFC teams in the conference, the Jets are obviously looking for a new head coach. Could they be looking for a head coach in familiar territory? Is that the best option? We'll answer that in today's show. Plus, we're going to get to the game picks as well, part 2 of what we started yesterday. So all of that and a couple more segments to get to on today's show. So make sure to stick around. But before we do get started, I'd like to remind you guys, if you guys want to get involved with the show, if you guys have any questions, comments, or opinions you'd want to share on anything we have to say on today's show, please don't hesitate to do so. Your input and your guys' interaction always makes the show a lot better in our opinion, so please go ahead and do that. Get involved, and if you want to make it absolutely sure that by getting involved, any message that you send is and gets featured on the show, there's an easy way to go about that just by using the new Super Chat feature. The Super Chat feature, you're able to use it just by clicking the $ at the bottom of the chat box that you see on your screen. And that way it guarantees that whatever message you guys want to share is featured on the show. I'll see it, I'll read it out loud, and take the conversation elsewhere. It's a great way to not only get involved, but also help the channel out in a lot of different ways. So we always appreciate you guys whenever you guys are able to do that, and we're always able to continue to provide you guys with the sports content you love anytime you guys are able to do that. So go ahead and let us know what you're thinking. Hit the Super Chat button, and let's keep this show as interactive and as exciting as possible. Again, use the Super Chat feature, click the $ at the bottom of the chat box to get involved in the many conversations that we're going to have today on the show. So with that being said, we're going to get to, obviously, the game last night to kick off Week 12. We had the Steelers and the Browns facing off for the first time in 2024. And Cleveland got over their 2-game losing streak to defeat the Steelers 24-19 in what quickly turned into an ugly, weather impactful, game with the snow coming down. It looked like two completely different games, right? In the first half, it was all pretty much cleared up, for the most part. You could at least see that the field was actually the color green instead of white. And, in the second half, it just really all went downhill from there. But some people liked it. I was never, I don't know if it's a hot take, I've never really been a fan of those weather games. I don't know. I just don't really like it. For a couple reasons, and it actually has to do with what we're going to talk about. But that was what it was. Obviously, the Browns, credit to them, they beat the Steelers in a short week. It was going to be a test of will, and the Browns came out on top. The Steelers now lose their first game with Russell Wilson as their starting quarterback, and the loss to the Browns snaps a 5-game winning streak that the Steelers were on, and now they have a record of 8-3, right? And the weather was, like I mentioned, a big portion of this that we're going to touch on in a little bit. But for the Browns, Jameis Winston, first time playing the Steelers, the first time playing in below 40-degree weather, and he had a great game. For any doubts or hesitation around Jameis Winston in, the elements and things like that, and then obviously getting worse in the second half, I thought he played fantastic. He avoided some sacks, made some really big throws, got in the end zone himself, and he really orchestrated a lot of the positive things that they did well. So a great first showing against the Steelers. Also, not really on the positive side for the Steelers and Mike Tomlin. They continue their bad streak on Thursday Night Football, on the road in division games especially, because they're 0-7 or 0-8 now in that regard. And Cleveland has won 5 of the last 6 games against Pittsburgh in Cleveland. So this has been an ongoing thing if you if you want to say that, right? The Browns playing at home, a very different team. They're what now, 3-8, the 3-8 on the season. So I mean, the overall season's not going great, obviously, but you look at the games they have won, they've all been at home. So clearly, playing at home, playing at the dog pound, definitely gets them more amped up. And they've beaten the Ravens at home, they've now beaten the Steelers at home, and the other game was the Jaguars, in a close game, but still, they defeated them. I want to say it was at home. Now I got to check, but while I do that, looking at more of the game and kind of how it all broke down, it was pretty crazy. Because there was a big swing of momentum that I felt, the Browns beat Jacksonville in Jacksonville. So two of their wins have been at home, not all of them. My mistake, but. Yeah, going back to this game and just talking about the craziness of it, it started with Pittsburgh, missing a field goal after last week hitting 6 of them. Their first one in these conditions went wide right, and I thought it gave you a good feel of what this game was going to be, right? Chris Boswell just won AFC Special Teams Player of the Week, and his first kick in the following game he misses, right? And I thought that set a precedent of it's not going to be one of those Boswell kicks field goal games, right? You're going to have to go away from that, and you're going to have to score touchdowns because the weather is not going to allow you to do that. But overall, with that being, kind of the tone setter for the Steelers, Cleveland won the first half because of the last 5 minutes of the second quarter when it was still 3-0 after the Steelers eventually got one field goal. After that, Cleveland in the final 5 minutes scored a touchdown, and after they scored that touchdown, the Steelers are back on the field, obviously, and Myles Garrett forces a fumble. The Browns recover it, and luckily for the Steelers, they only go down and hit a field goal, right? And they take that 10-3 lead into halftime. Not completely out of it, but that's a huge swing of momentum that happened right before the half, right? You're always talking about situational moments, big impact moments before the half, coming back out of halftime are huge points in the game. And the first one went to the Cleveland Browns. And not only the score line, but Myles Garrett, my goodness. I'm gonna get to the game recap and then react to what I want to say about Myles Garrett and the whole, responding to TJ and that whole thing outside of playing football. But before I get to that, going through the rest of the game, we talked about the situational moments, right? Before halftime and then after halftime, Pittsburgh had the perfect opportunity to turn things around after they recovered their own fumble. Cedric Tillman fumbled on a pass that was completed, but a good hit by Deshaun Elliott forced that free. And, they swung the momentum back in their favor, it felt like. But the Steelers offense failed on a 4th down. Again, the first time it was in the first half. Bad play call, same thing in the second half. They failed to convert, and they came away with nothing. So it was still 10-3. That's one missed opportunity by the Steelers. Then after the Steelers hit another field goal, and the Browns now had the ball again, I thought the game was pretty much over once, the Browns went down. They scored a touchdown. Jameis Winston ran it in after he got away from Nick Herbig. He jumped into the end zone. They went for 2. David Njoku, after dropping a bunny in the end zone, he goes up and mosses 2 guys and flips over on his head, and they convert that 2-point conversion. So now it's 18-6. But somehow, the Steelers kicked it into gear late. I guess better late than never. And they scored 2 touchdowns back-to-back, and also a big strip sack by Nick Herbig in that entire sequence of it. Gave the Steelers the lead 19-18. And at that point, I'm thinking, the Steelers are about to steal one that they probably shouldn't win. But also, once, the Browns came back on the field, I thought the game was pretty much over and pretty much sealed away when Jameis Winston came back and threw that interception, right? Of course, I was wrong because the Steelers punted away on another questionable call on 3rd down to pass it. And, of course, it was incomplete in inclement weather to throw that ball, kind of just down the field. Made no sense to me, but that was the play call. The Steelers stopped the clock, and Cleveland got the ball back. Jerry Jeudy had a couple big catches. Jameis Winston made some big throws. They converted all their 4th downs, and They go down and score with 57 seconds left, and obviously the Steelers don't get anything after that, after the failed Hail Mary, so they lose 24-19. But overall, credit to Cleveland for the kind of game they played. Myles Garrett, like I said, destroyed everything. And really, the Steelers really tried to lose this game because of how well they've been playing, how well that they've not really hurt themselves. To see them play like that, I know people have been saying, like, they just play the Ravens, and you could really tell, in the snow after, having a fight with the Ravens and winning that game in a close one, it was going to take a toll on you. But I didn't think it was going to be like this. Mike Tomlin talked about the penalties to start the game and just them starting pretty slow, where the Browns were very amped up for this game, right? It's a different sort of attention to detail when the Browns and the Steelers play, and the Browns were just coming off of a loss. They were hungry to get a win, and the Steelers clearly did not meet their energy. And, you just look at the first half, like I keep mentioning with Myles Garrett. He clearly went out there to prove a point, and he did. 3 sacks, a forced fumble. He completely destroyed the game in the first half, and it was pretty lucky that they were only down 7 at halftime. But Myles Garrett, on that, sort of point, he was extra motivated for this game, not just because it was Steelers-Browns, but I thought it was kind of funny how the reporter brought up this question about, I thought it was kind of crazy how the reporter brought up this question about TJ and how he reacted kind of salty to the Defensive Player of the Year last year, like months ago, and they bring it up now pretty randomly, and I feel like that just added some extra bit of motivation for Myles Garrett. It's not like TJ Watt threw a shot at him this week leading up into the game. This is digging it up from months ago, so to bring it up now, good for that reporter to get Myles Garrett a little bit more amped up. It clearly worked, but overall in this game, the Steelers did a lot of things bad. And the things I'm going to read out are pretty unbelievable, right? Because in this game, Cleveland was 1 of 10 on 3rd down, and Pittsburgh was 7 of 16. The Steelers were 1 of 3 on 4th down. The Browns were 4 of 4 on 4th down. Pittsburgh ran more plays, they had more drives, they had more total yards and more time of possession, and they still lost the game. Cleveland became the first team in NFL history to commit 3+ turnovers, have 8+ penalties, convert no more than 1 third down, have under 25 minutes of time of possession, and blow a 12-point lead in the 4th quarter and still win that game. You couldn't pile up anything more on the Browns to kind of suggest that they obviously lost this game. So, again, credit to them. Their defense played very well, I thought. Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome played well. The pass rush was really causing the Steelers trouble. They struggled, obviously, with Myles Garrett, and in the second half as well. They couldn't really run the ball. Najee didn't really do too much. Jaylen Warren had a pretty decent game. But, I think I was just disappointed in the fact that also, it wasn't just the players, but I didn't like the coaching decisions and some of the play calling that Arthur Smith or Mike Tomlin, executed in this game or failed to execute in this game. So I thought it was just a shame that, this game is, the implications of this game for the Browns and the Steelers, and the record coming into it, right, how Mike Tomlin has not really been successful in these type of games, but to kind of go out there pretty flat, lose all the crucial points, not stop 1 4th down, and still get a bunch of turnovers, which the offense really didn't take advantage of. I thought it was definitely a missed opportunity here where you did everything to win the game, but it was those crucial moments that really let you down, and the Steelers kind of hurt themselves a lot in this game where that really wasn't something going into this game. So, it is what it is now. The Browns got a big win, and they deserved it, quite honestly. So that is what we saw last night, but we're going to go more into Week 12 in just a little bit. But in the meantime, while we go into our break, we're going to come back and talk about the New York Jets. What does their future hold? Who is going to be their head coach? Could they go back to a familiar face to kind of lead them out of this hole that they've dug themselves into? Who is that, and is that the right fit? I'm going to answer that question when we return after this break.